Chapter 47. Singapura. The legend of the creation of this Buddha image is completely different from others. The concept of creating the Buddha image at that time was to negate beliefs rather than to create faith. Lord Foch explained, further arousing my curiosity. Creating a Buddha image to negate beliefs. What's that like? Please tell me the story, I asked. Let me tell you from the beginning, so you can see the whole picture. About 200 years after the Buddha's passing, Buddhism began to show signs of distortion. Before that, the Buddha did not allow his followers to create idols or likenesses of him for worship, because he foresaw that it would lead to attachment to the individual more than the teachings. Another negative consequence was that people would turn to the Buddha for help, using the Buddha image as a tool, or rely on external things, as had been the case in the past when most people worshipped gods and emphasized rituals, pleading and begging for things from the outside, instead of trying to rely on the sacredness within. So, the Buddha only allowed the creation of stupas as memorials, such as stupas containing his relics and hair, or places he had visited and had important stories, often appearing as footprints of the Buddha, symbolizing that the Buddha had been to that place, or places related to him, such as places of birth, enlightenment, and passing. But in the 200 years after the Buddha's passing, many souls who in their past lives had Brahmin beliefs ordained as monks. So, they mixed in the concept of asking for things from the outside, making vows, and changed from relying on gods, Brahma, Narayan, Shiva, to relying on the Buddha instead. So, temples in the post-200 years period became popular for sculpting or carving Buddha images, giving the reason that it was to commemorate the great compassion of the Buddha. This concept aligned with the people's original disposition, which needed a mental anchor, a mental refuge, or reliance on external things. And it was the old tradition that had been believed in since the time of the flourishing of Brahmanism, that if a benevolent person, a wealthy person, or a king wanted to build a religious place, they had to build a Buddha image for worship, as well because it was believed that the merit from creating this was particularly great. And this matter is the key issue of the events that happened to you. About 1,000 years later, Lord Foch hinted, please tell me the story. I really want to know, I said eagerly. At that time, you were named Chakrasi. You were born as the son of a king named Singapuru, who came to rule the city of Ujigini about 1,000 years after the time you were traveling through now. Originally, Singapuru, your father, was a commoner, not a king. He was born to a wealthy mother who had a secret relationship with a Sinhala man, a foreigner. This Sinhala man had black skin, black hair, and hair on his arms, legs, and all over his body. He was from a distant land called Sin. In the eyes of the villagers at that time, this Sinhala man was strange and repulsive because of his black skin. When the two lived together, they soon had one child, named Singapuru, who was your father. The woman's family, who were wealthy, had to accept and allow this Sinhala man to join their family. But because this Sinhala man was talented, had a business mind, and had connections with fellow Sinhala people abroad, he quickly built immense wealth. But Singapuru didn't like his father very much. His appearance was exactly like his father's. Whenever he went anywhere, he was insecure and never proud of himself or his father. When he went to study in high society, among the sons of kings and wealthy people, most of whom had yellow or white skin and looked clean, he was often teased by his friends about his black skin. This feeling accumulated and made Singapuru hate his father, who made him look like this, and deep down, he also blamed his mother for choosing such a father. But Singapuru's father loved him very much. He did everything to make Singapahu a high-class person, sending him to study various subjects at institutions specifically for princes, especially at Takasila. He was behind the plan to promote Singapahu to the status of king, which coincided with the fact that the ruler of Ugajini had no male heirs, only daughters, and the wealth of Singapahu's family was greater than that of the king of Ugajini. So, the story ended with the marriage ceremony between Singapahu and the princess of the city of Ugajini, and everything went according to plan when the ruler of Ugajini passed away. Singapahu rightfully ascended to the throne, and the name of the city was changed to Singapura, which later became the city of Singburi. The story seems to be going smoothly and perfectly, I observed. Yes, it seems like the story would end happily ever after, because not long after Singapahu married the princess of Ugajini, she gave birth to a son with fair skin. Unlike him, who had black skin like his father, perhaps he inherited more genes from his mother. Singapahu loved his son very much and named him Chakrasiya. And that child was you, Lord Foch elaborated. Wow, my story starts from here, I said. Yes, but deep in Singapahu's heart, he harbored hatred. Every time he saw his son with his fair skin, as bright as gold, he hated himself and his father even more. Although he had everything, there was one thing that caused him lifelong frustration: his black skin and the hair that grew all over his body. If there was a way to shed the appearance of a black person, he wouldn't hesitate. No matter how expensive the skin whitening products were, he would buy them to get them. He once announced to everyone that if anyone could make his skin white and clean, he would give half of his wealth. But in the end, no one succeeded. At the same time, his father was proud of his son, who perfectly resembled this inhaler ethnicity. The father would always tell his son to be proud of his ethnicity, to love his dignity, and to value himself. But the more he said, the more it seemed like he was cutting open an old wound, making it deeper. Every time there was an argument about this, Singapahu's dissatisfaction with his father grew, until one day, King Singapahu and his father went out riding horses in the forest to hunt, which was a recreational activity that the king and his close soldiers enjoyed the most. During that hunt, they encountered a young deer that had strayed from the herd. They chased after it on their horses. Eventually, the unfortunate deer hid in a thicket. Everyone dismounted and surrounded the thicket to prevent it from escaping. They crept forward with their most effective hunting bows in hand, as they slowly closed in on their cornered prey. Everyone used hand signals to indicate where it was hiding. Singapahu's father, standing opposite him, signaled that it was hiding behind a large bush. His father couldn't see the deer, but Singapahu probably could. So, he pointed out the position, and when Singapahu aimed at the spot his father pointed to, the large young deer's head popped up. Singapahu immediately raised his bow, but as he aimed at the stationary target, a sure shot, his eyes glanced at his father, just a hand's breadth away from the prey. In that instant, a thought popped into Singapahu's head. If he used this opportunity to kill his repulsive father, it would be a reasonable excuse that the arrow missed its target unintentionally. He would not be guilty. It would be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If he let it slip away, he didn't know if he would ever get such a chance again. With that thought, he drew the bowstring with all his might and moved the target to his father. Immediately, his father realized that the target of this shot was no longer the deer because the bow was aimed at him. Although he realized it, it was too late. In a split second, The arrow pierced his heart. His eyes were still fixed on Singapore. He died instantly by his own son's hand. Chaos ensued immediately after everyone witnessed the event. There were shouts. The arrow missed. Don't shoot. While the deer jumped out of the encirclement. All the close soldiers rushed to Singapore's father. When they arrived, they found that he had died from an arrow in his heart. With his eyes wide open, loud cries arose. Along with another shout, the royal father is dead.